You're muted, Sheikh.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We begin in the name of Allah. All praise and glory be to Allah, and may His finest peace and blessings be upon His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family and his companions and all those who tread his path. May Allah grant us and you a life upon his path, and a death upon his guidance, and a reunion around him, and a drink from his hand, and a march behind him, as he will be the first to enter the gates of Jannah. Allahumma ameen. For us and our families and our loved ones and every sincere seeker, Ya Rabb. We welcome everyone back to our live stream, and we move on now to our next session with my good brother, my big brother, Sheikh Abdullah Oduro. And Sheikh Abdullah Oduro converted to Islam in 97, and he went to the Islamic University of Medina and graduated from the College of Law there in 2007. He's a father of four, tabarakallah, who currently serves as an imam in Dallas, Texas, and he's a scholar with us on the team for Yaqeen Institute. And he leads a team which provides unique and comprehensive resources for new Muslim converts and institutional convert care at large. And sometimes on his off time, he tries to catch up with me in CrossFit and deadlifting and stuff. And so I'm gonna give him a 40-day grace period from now to do that, inshallah. May Allah protect him and make his strength for him and not against him, and make him a reason for inspiration for many people in their deen and in their healthy habits throughout their journeys here in the dunya. He's going to be presenting now, inshallah, on engaging the Quran this Ramadan, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We're going to be capturing your questions off of YouTube and Facebook and presenting them after his presentation, reading them off to him, inshallah. So Sheikh Abdullah, please benefit us. Ahsanallahu ilayk.
Hayakallah. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. That was a gracious introduction. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for any shortcomings and to make us of those individuals that stay consistent in the actions, even if they were little, for that is what's most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Billahi tawfiq, bismillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli ya rabbal alameen. So, alhamdulillah, this beautiful topic of the Quran, I mean, there's so many things that can be talked about regarding the Quran. But subhanAllah, when we look at this month of Ramadan and the month of Sha'ban right now, and the month of Ramadan coming close, many things are happening. I mean, with the advent of the COVID-19 virus here, and it creeping up in certain places more than others, and people are getting affected. Just a couple of hours ago, I heard another individual in our general community was affected, and he was doing some relief work, and he was positive. So this is something that we cannot deny, and it's something that is coming closer to us. And some of us may be tested positive. It's a reality that we have to accept, and it's out of our hands. That being the case, it's most important for us to focus on what is in our control and what we can affect and influence that will serve as a means of serenity within our hearts. It will serve as a means of guidance for ourselves and also guidance for others. There's a story that I want to share with you all. It's a brief story, but it was, about a brother that embraced Islam. And after his embracing Islam, he was with one of his friends that was, I guess you could say, an organic mentor. He didn't intend to be a mentor, but subhanAllah, as the days went by, as they were hanging around each other, that was his mentor. And they would go to the mosque that was down the street from his house. They would just walk there, and then they would go back, and his mentor would have him listen to lectures here and there, and they would talk and talk about the days of the past and things of that nature, bad, good, bad, and ugly. And subhanAllah, one day he was with him at Salat al-Maghrib, and the imam that was there started to recite, and the brother heard the voice, and the voice was, subhanAllah, was a beautiful, beautiful voice, something like he never heard before. And after the Salat, he sat after Maghrib, and his friend, his mentor, said, give me about maybe 20, 30 minutes. I'm just going to go back here. He walked to the back, and the new Muslim saw the minister, what he called him at that time, was very new as a Muslim. He saw the minister teaching his mentor how to make sounds. Because at that time, that's all it was sounds to him. It was ذهب, خرج, كتب, and he was the convert was like, what is going on? What is he doing? Why is he telling him? And then he even touched his throat. He was like, okay, why is he touching his? What's up with all that? What's going on? Why is he telling him to make these weird sounds? Whereupon his mentor tells him, come over here, just come sit down. So he sits down at this long wooden table, and the minister, okay, gives him a book, the same book that he was using to review with the guy's mentor. So he gives him the book, and then he tells him, read. So then the brother, the mentor, the convert was kind of like, ma ana biqari. He's like, I can't read. I don't know. What is this? So then all of a sudden he said, just read. Follow after me. He said, Alif. And then the brother looked at him, Aleph. He said, no, Alif, Alif. And he just mocked him. He just started. He's like, Ba. He started reciting. He closed the book and he said, if you come here every day, I will teach you how to recite this. The convert was like, what is this? He was like, this is what I was reciting earlier. You mean that beautiful voice that's this? This is connected some way? He said, yes, this is the Quran. If you learn how to read this, this can make you better than me in recitation. You can learn how to memorize this book. And the brother, subhanAllah, between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the obligation that he put on himself. I'm going to try my best to come here every day to read. Sure enough, that brother came every day after Salat al-Maghrib and read with his sheikh that was from Kerala, India. Brother and sisters, that was me. That was me. And every time I think about Ramadan and I think about the Quran, I think about those moments that my sheikh that has such a right upon me gave me his time to sit down between Maghrib and Isha. He led Maghrib and he led Isha. He took away from his family, his newborn baby, to sit and to read the Quran and to be patient with me. Wallah, I didn't go get past Fatiha for a whole week. That's because he was very serious about the Quran. And that is something that I want to make sure that we all do throughout our lives. Not even this month of Ramadan. Even the month of Ramadan is the month of the Quran. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connected the month of the Quran with Ramadan and not with Siyam. If you see, he says in the Quran, after A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. Al-ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was revealed. In which the Quran was revealed. So there is a silah. There is a connection between the Quran and the month of Ramadan. That there is a virtue with this beautiful month of Ramadan. But now we have this coronavirus. There's a lot of things to think about. We're even adjusting with our, subhanAllah, in some cases, new family. Even though we've been under the same roof, we're used to being gone at 12 in the afternoon. But at 12 in the afternoon, I'm in my house with my kids, knocking on the door every 5 minutes, or with my kid not coming out of his room except for 5 minutes. It's a new adjustment. It's a new challenge. But this month of Ramadan is close, and the Quran is always close to you. The word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there. It's really important for us to sit and evaluate. Even though this Ramadan is unique, what is still within our hands and our power, bi'idhnillah, is to fast if we are eligible and to read this beautiful book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 3 things I want to remind you all. Firstly, we want to preserve this Quran within ourselves and within our hearts and within our houses. We want to preserve this Quran. The Quran preservation is 3 things that we can remember, inshallah. And it'll be, inshallah, pretty easy. Bi'idhnillah. Contemplation, memorization, implementation. Even though I can't hear you, repeat after me. The angels can hear you, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as-Sami'. Contemplation, memorization, implementation. Know that these 3 are the elements of preserving the Quran within your heart, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. The first thing is Contemplation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in the chapter of Sad, after أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم كتاب أنزلناه إليك مبارك ليدبروا آياته وليتذكر أولو الألباب. The blessed book that we have sent down. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning He sent this book down. ليدبروا آياته, to ponder over its verses. وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ, and for the ulul albab, the people of preponderance, the people that think, the people that contemplate, those are the ones that are going to remember. Remember what? Remember this revelation in times of need. Have you ever had someone that you say to yourself, man, that advice, I didn't understand it then. I didn't understand what my father told me then, but now I'm an adult. Now I'm a father. I understand it. And those words of wisdom saved me years of mistakes. Or you made the mistakes and then someone told you something and you say to yourself, I wish I would have known that years ago. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. And Allah is a much greater example. Imagine when you see any karitha, anything that's harmful. For instance, with the coronavirus, what's one verse that comes to your mind? قُلْ لَنْ يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا. Say that nothing will affect us except that what Allah has predestined. Al-ayah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that, anything that happens in your life, good, bad, or what we may perceive as good or evil or bad, is there a verse that you can remember? And that comes with contemplation initially. That whatever you read, you're thinking about it. You're contemplating over it. And contemplation, subhanAllah, how can that be obtained? It is trying to take the means to have divided attention, or have undivided attention, excuse me, to have attention that is undivided. So taking the means to clear out any of the distractions. As we know now, this is an opportunity for us, or it's a challenge, to where we see, okay, I'm not occupied with getting in my car, going out, getting gas, going to work, dealing with the people at work, offline, being on site. It takes from time, the traffic getting to and fro. That's about a good hour for some people, 2 hours, 45 minutes. What about that time we say, okay, for that time, what could I be doing? Sitting and playing board games with my children, sitting with the family, reading a verse of the Quran and pondering over it. When we ponder over the Quran, there are so many ways that we can do it, from recitation. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he received revelation. When after he received the revelation, he ran back to his best friend. He ran back to Khadija radiallahu anhu, which was his best friend. Many of us may be thinking Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he was his best friend, but Khadija was his best friend as well. Khadija radiallahu anha. He ran to her and he said, Inni khashitu ala nafsi. He said, verily, I fear for myself. So when seeing this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, O Muzammil, the one that is covered in garments, because he told her, Zammiluni, Zammiluni, he said, to cover me in garments. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the means of contemplation. The first thing he told him was, Qum al-layla illa qalila. Whatever you're reciting in your prayer, try your best to think about it, to ponder over it. What am I reading? And I'm not saying you have to be hafiz. It's just whatever you know from the Quran, think about it. The word alhamdulillah. Alhamd. This is what is called al-istighraq, meaning all types of hamd, all types of praise, that which you know, and most importantly, which is so profound, that which you don't even know is all for Allah. It's all for Allah. Right now, I could have been 5 minutes late. Right? Right now, I could have done something that is not a praiseworthy action. You may know someone that has a praiseworthy action, and then there's something else that they're not that praiseworthy for. As a matter of fact, every single form of creation has a praiseworthy characteristic and a characteristic that is not that worthy of praise, or not praiseworthy at all. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of his attributes are kamil shamil la yahtamilu naqsan biwajhin min wujuh. They are complete, comprehensive. It is impossible, inconceivable, irrational for them to have any form of deficiency. Therefore, Anything and everything that he does is worthy of praise. So when you say Alhamdulillah in the Salah, have pictures in your mind. What has Allah done for me that deserves praise? My healthy child, my senses that I have, the money that I have, the roof over my head. All of this has been given to me beyond me from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, he's deserving of praise. Contemplating over just Alhamdulillah, one can sit and ponder. And as a matter of fact, it is totally permissible for you to recite the verse over and over and over and over again. This is what the Salaf used to do. As one of the companions mentioned, he entered upon Asma, and Asma radiallahu anha recited the verse in Surah At-Tur, فَمَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا وَوَقَانَا عَذَابَ السَّمُومِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, manna alayna, he gave us, he bestowed upon us his blessings. وَوَقَانَا عَذَابَ السَّمُومِ. And he protected us from the fire of the scorching heat. She would repeat this verse. He said, I went out to go and handle some business, came back. She was still making isti'adah and making dua. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would repeat verses as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ, and fear the day that you will return to Allah. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recite this verse over and over and over again. And seeing, subhanallah, that one of the companions, it was Al-Hasan radiallahu anhu, he mentioned that, subhanallah, that there is not a ni'mah that a taraf, when it comes down and comes back up, and remembering that each one of those actions is a ni'mah, that is a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we think of Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim, the path of those of whom you have blessed and put blessings upon. Just think about all of the blessings that Allah has given you. That is the contemplation that we are referring to here. That is the contemplation, to think and ponder over those verses and see how they apply in your life. The next one of those is memorization. Now, this can change. Some people may, it may be memorization and then contemplation. But what's most important is to understand this Quran was ultimately revealed for us to contemplate over it and to act upon that contemplation. The strongest means of contemplation is without a doubt memorization. Memorization. It is very important within this era of social media and of the internet that we do not take for granted the importance of sitting somewhere in the corner of a room or in your car, and instead of listening to the radio, instead of listening to lectures even, that you repeat a verse over. وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا فُرَادَى كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا فُرَادَى كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا فُرَادَى كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ. You just think of this verse. وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا, you verily have come to us, furadan, alone, as we have created you in the beginning. Meaning that you will go back to Allah alone. And you think of, wallahi, I'm in this world alone. Wallahi, I'm going to go back to him alone. The conversations that you have with yourself, do you welcome those conversations? When you're at home, do you take time to isolate yourself and think about just one verse for the day and say, how is it applying to my life? How am I holding myself accountable before I will be held accountable? See, when you memorize the verse, you can recall the moments. When you memorize the verse, you will be the individual that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking to at all times, because you have this istihbar, you have this recall upon the moment. And do you think that, this is a misconception sometimes, and it can be from shaitan. Why am I memorizing something that I don't even understand? Why is it's just phonetics that I'm memorizing? It sounds. I don't even understand it. Well, let's go back to when we mentioned that we work with what is in our power and what is in our hands. Wallahi, the Arabic letters are less than 30, and there's 30 days in a month. We can memorize these letters and how they sound, and we can memorize how they are put together. Then we can memorize the verse as they're put together. Do we not think that when we memorize and we struggle and we sit in the mirror and we feel embarrassed at times in front of people in Zoom rooms and reciting, or just in the mirror by ourselves with the angels watching, that work, that toil, will you not be rewarded for that? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-mahu bil-Qur'ani مع الكرام السفرة البررة والذي يقرأ القرآن وهو عليه شاق ويتتعتع فيه وهو عليه شاق له أجران." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the one that reads the Quran and is an expert in it is with the noble angel scribes. He doesn't stop there. He says, and the one that reads the Quran and stutters while he is stuttering, وَيَتَتَعْتَعْ وَهُوَ عَلَيْهِ شَاقٌ, and it is difficult upon him or her, for them is two rewards. Allah loves, wants the effort. When he sees you're making the effort, this is when it will be made easier for you. This is when the nur and the love and the sweetness of faith will be encountered, when one struggles and strives for it. So please do not fall into the trap of not reading the Quran because your recitation is not good, or you're stuttering, or, I don't know the Arabic language. There's a huge difference between knowing the Arabic language and reciting the Quran. Please, let's not be negligent of trying our best to recite the Quran with our beautiful children. They may recite better than us. Please try to sit in the room with your children and listen to their recitation. The Prophet ﷺ used to love to listen to some of the companions' recitation. Ubay ibn Ka'b used to love to listen to some of the companions. Taking the opportunity to listen to a family member recite the Quran, reciting the Quran on, Yawm al-Jum'ah, and reciting Surah Al-Kahf, making a goal. Every day I want to try to recite an ayah and memorize an ayah, a verse of Surah Al-Kahf. Making these goals is highly recommended, and everything you do within this will be rewarded, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that reciting Alif Lam Mim, person that recites will get 10 rewards and many more than that. And he says that I don't mean that a word or a harf is Alif Lam Mim, but Alif is a harf, Lam is a harf, and Mim is a harf, and each harf, each letter, you will receive 10 rewards, and inshallah, many more than that, bi'idhnillah. So that was the second, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, memorization of the Quran. To try your best to memorize what you can of the Quran. So if we were to gather contemplation, repetition, repeating the verses over and over and over again, repeating those verses, thinking of an event that took place in your life while you're repeating the verse, doesn't that pierce and take the layers off of the heart? Maybe the hard hearts. None of us have probably read the Quran for 10 out of the 12 months. Make the effort. Make that effort. When you're alone, when you're with the group, get inside of a Zoom group and just listen to them read, and ask Allah to open your heart, to soften your heart to this beautiful, beautiful message. The memorization of the Quran should never be neglected. All of us, inshallah, should make the intention to memorize the Quran. Why not? This is something that is possible, but it's up to our drive. It's up to our azm. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a beautiful, beautiful dua, and this dua is in Musnad Imam Ahmad, a beautiful dua, and he said, Subhanallah, إذا كنز الناس الذهب والفضة فاكنزوا أنتم هؤلاء الكلمات. He said, if people were to hoard gold and silver, then you people, antum, hoard or collect or keep in mind and cherish these words. Firstly, the importance of dhikr. And that dhahab and fidda will go. As a matter of fact, they said dhahab li'annahu yadhhab wa fidda li'annahu tanfad. That gold is called gold because it will eventually leave, and silver will eventually implode, and you won't see it in the akhirah. It doesn't benefit you in the akhirah. In any case, the beginning of the du'as where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allahumma inni as'aluka thabata fil amri wal azimata fil rushd. Oh Allah, I ask you to make me steadfast in the situation, being the religion, wal azima fil rushd, and make me determined in the acts of guidance or within guidance. So having the determined effort to do it with the intention, as scholars mention, the azam comes after niyyah. You have the determined effort to do it and tawakkal ala Allah. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And if you were to have the determination and tawakkul and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after making consultation with people, as the ayats mentioned. So thirdly, brothers and sisters, after contemplation, memorization, implementation. When we look at the people of the Quran, Ahlul Quran, we think that Ahlul Quran are the people that come in Taraweeh and they recite the Quran, the juz a night, and they finish the Quran the whole night. That is a huge virtue and huge blessings. As we mentioned, they are the first category that is mentioned in the hadith of the ones that are with the noble angels, the angel scribes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make any sadness that is faced from any of our Qurra around the world, in Allentown, mashallah, that are not able to read. May He make that feeling of sadness that you have for not being able to recite His book loudly in the masajid. May He replace that with happiness, serenity, tranquility. May He make that time that we are not together reciting together in Taraweeh, a means for us to contemplate and to think over ourselves and our communities. So when looking at this acting of the Quran, it is important, and it is so important for us. As I mentioned, the ultimate goal of the Quran is to act off of what you have pondered over. It's to live the Quran. So when we are at home, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, subhanallah, in the chapter of I think it's Taghab or Mujadala, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, after أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يوم يبعثهم الله جميعا فينبئهم بما عملوا أحصاه الله ونسوه. Allahu Akbar. And I will end here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in this beautiful, beautiful verse, it's important for us to remember now when we are at home and we are adjusting, and there are family members that we are even adjusting to and their ways. We may be parents that may have different parenting styles, and a father in the middle of the day is seeing how his children may not be praying Dhuhr. He sees in the middle of the day how his wife may be dealing with them, and it's not in the way that he would do it. He sees the mistakes that he may or she may as a mother, or a bigger brother to his younger brother, the mistakes and the way that they treated each other in the house. And that way of dealing with each other, those mannerisms are increasing, and it may be getting worse. What about the times years ago? Now you may have that remorse from those actions that you have done. It has been a means for you to think and to contemplate. But guess what? There have been actions before that you have totally forgotten that you've done. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers it. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this beautiful verse. The day that He will gather them up together and inform them of what they used to do. The them is all of us. We'll all be gathered. And what does He say at the very end? Ahsahu Allahu wa nasu. He accounted and enumerated them, or gathered all of what they used to do and informed us of that. And they totally forgot. They totally forgot of the bad things that they used to do and didn't ask for any kind of forgiveness. And that's why, subhanAllah, we make a lot of the ad'iyah that are from the Jawami'. As the Prophet ﷺ told Aisha, which is in the Muslim al-Firyabi, he said, Ya Aisha alayki bil kawamin or al-jawami'. He says, Inni utitu bi jawami' al-kalam. He says that he told Aisha, oh Aisha, it is upon you to make the comprehensive dua. So from them, Allahumma kfirli ma qaddamtu ma akhartu ma a'lantu ma asrat wa ma asrat. The dua where we say, oh Allah, forgive me for what I've done put forth, or what I've left, or what I've held in secret, or that which is apparent. These comprehensive dua from that which what we have forgotten. Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim will have mercy upon us, and Al-Ghafur will forgive us, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So it's important for you to try your best to implement the Quran in your life. The verses that talk about forgiveness, the verses that talk about preponderance over the Quran, the verses that talk about not saying oof to your parents. Some people say, I don't say oof, but I may say something else. Well, we make qiyas, an analogy upon that. Any type of oofing attitude or statement is what this verse is talking about. we try our level best to implement and act on these beautiful verses. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidun. But verily we have sent down this Quran, which is the dhikr, as remembrance, and verily we will be the ones that preserve it. But your responsibility is to take that which is preserved, to recite it, to try your best to memorize it, but most importantly, to ponder over it in order to act upon it. And that is what this will make this Ramadan the best Ramadan, the most unique Ramadan, and a catalyst for change in our hearts towards the Creator of all hearts. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qulubana ala dinik. O the one that flips the hearts, make our hearts firm upon the religion. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Jazakumullah khairan.
Ahsan Allah alayk, Sheikh Abdullah. May Allah Azza wa Jalla allow for there to be a lasting impact for your words. And to live for the month of Ramadan and beyond, and many generations after us and you, and not deprive us the reward of all of this. So there are a few questions that I want to share with you one at a time, inshallah. Sure. First of all, is there any particular passage in the Quran that spoke to you in a very powerful way or gripped you in a very powerful way before or after coming into Islam?
No. There's a number of them. It was really after becoming a Muslim. SubhanAllah, there was, I'll just mention one of them, you know, with the story of Moses, alayhi salam, when he was with the people, he was with his Hawariyin, or he was with his followers, and Fir'aun was behind him, and he was about to, you know, hit the staff on the sea. And he turned around and he said, Ya qawmi innama hadhihi al-hayatu ad-dunya mata' wa inna al-akhirata hiya dar al-qarar. You know, SubhanAllah is just talking about the dunya and how the dunya is temporary and how the akhirah is the everlasting abode. And that just really, because before I became Muslim, okay, this is kind of personal, but I used to believe in Illuminati. I used to believe that the world was going to end, that there's a big brother plan, that they're going to put microchips inside of us. And
wait, they're not?
Allah. No, it reminds me, you know, I remember I was with this new Muslim friend of mine. He was in the army and he became Muslim. I actually took him to a gathering. We were both listening, hearing about Islam. And I took him to a gathering and he became Muslim before me. And he left me abandoned. They prayed Salat al-Dhuhr. I remember I asked him, I said, man, do you believe in aliens? And he said something so funny. I'll never forget this. He said, brother, I have no idea, but if there are any aliens, they better be making salat. So it was really about just that this world will end and that there's something much more important that we should invest in. And that is that was one of the most profound verses to me, because Musa told his people, I mean, they were going to jump in the sea, right? But then he hit the staff, and then the staff, it was like high mountains on each side. Can you imagine just seeing a mountain that is as high, that is the sea as high as the mountain, and the earth was yabis, and they walked on it. So just all of those descriptions was totally amazing to me. That was one of the most profound verses to me. No, that's one of them. Yeah.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah kullu khair. Can you share any proven tips to memorize the Quran easily?
Oh, wallahi, this is a whole lot. SubhanAllah, I was just reading something, you know, Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, I think he mentions it in his Majmu' Fatawa. Firstly, the separating of parts of the Quran, like the Juz, the Thalathun al-Ajza and Ahzab and Thumun and Nahwi dhalik. So you have 30 parts of the Quran, and each part has two hizb, you know, hizban, you know, so, and each hizb is separated into eights. You know, there are certain, not all the scholars agree on that methodology of memorization. And from them is Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah. You know, it's more of memorizing based on the context, which will allow preponderance and also implementation. So that's definitely one where it's like basically mawdu'i. So you memorize it based on the subject matter. That can help you in memorizing the Quran. Definitely, predominantly most people in the morning after Salat al-Fajr, when the sun is rising, right? It is the time to make dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the best dhikr is that of the Quran al-Kareem. And the mind is fresh. This is why one should sleep at an adequate time to make sure that their minds are fresh of taking in any information. And the best information, obviously, is the Quran al-Kareem. So what I would advise you to do is whatever time you feel the most energetic. If you happen to work at night and after Maghrib is your most energetic time, to take some time out and see, read the Quran. If you can read the letters of Arabic, take that method first. Put post-its on your refrigerator, post-its on your room door, places that you will always encounter, and put whatever you want to memorize there. When you do that, take it and repeat it. I like to, with my children, alhamdulillah, we try to repeat it 10 times a verse. So you say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. You repeat it 10 times. You go to the next verse 10 times, then recite both of those verses 10 times, third verse 10 times, then all three of them 10 times. What will happen is over a period of time, you will get stronger. How many people that have memorized the Quran, they start with a page. Near the end of their memorization of the Quran, they're doing 3 pages, 3 pages in about an hour and a half, inshallah. So look at the time that you have the most energy and make sure that you try to memorize whatever you can. Do not go overboard. So start with an ayah, then move to half a page, etc., and then move to a page, inshallah. Allah knows best.
Jazakallah khairan. If I may, Sheikh Sulaiman Hani has a very well received book called 114 Tips on Memorizing the Quran. I guess he was borrowing the number of surahs of the Quran for the barakah of it. So he called the book 114 Tips. You can find it on the internet. And we wanted to remind people also a part of reflecting on the Quran or a tool to help you, QuranReflect.com. I've been speaking about this a lot in preparation for Ramadan. Everyone should check it out. Could even be a means for you to develop your own personal Quran diary, where you can just put your own reflections. And sometimes some people, they're so personal, they're so heartfelt, they don't want to publish them, which is fine. You can have your own account with your own posts and reflections, very user-friendly. And apparently an app just came out for it. Lastly, regarding memorization, just because I've been personally stung by this, and I never figured it out until last year in one of our tarbiyah sessions at Yaqeen, Dr. Hatem Al-Hajj mentioned something that was very interesting. He said, don't ever try to memorize or review your Quran before iftar, because it'll really frustrate you. You'll feel like you're just such a loser. That's how I felt. Sheikh Hatem used gentler words, of course. He's not from Brooklyn, New York, and he's far better mannered than me. But he said, because it makes perfect sense. If he's a physician also, he says you're hypoglycemic. Your sugar is at its lowest point of the day before Maghrib, and so your brain can't focus as well. So on top of what you mentioned, Sheikh, Jazakallah khair, about the barakah of the morning hours in terms of strength and in terms of the actual real blessing that we believe in, that Allah Azza wa Jal increase the potential of the early hours, just keep in mind that you may want to read more later in the day or listen more as opposed to actually review or memorize. Let that be earlier in the day, and Allah knows best. What are some challenges you see Muslim reverts facing, and how can we overcome these challenges in our communities?
Okay. Mashallah, with Yaqeen, we actually did about 7 interviews with converts on, the COVID and Ramadan. What are some experiences, perceptions, and forms of advice that they would give? There's a number of challenges. Obviously, with Ramadan, when you hear Ramadan, you hear social, you hear Eid. You hear Eid alone. That is something that I think almost, that's definitely a commonality amongst converts. I experienced it many years of my life. You're at the Eid prayer, and then people, you say, you ask, where you going? If you're talking to anybody, if you know anyone, where you going? Well, I'm going with my family here. I'm going with my family there. That's a huge challenge, the social element. For that, I would advise any seasoned Muslim community, anyone in the seasoned Muslim community, a new or a renewed Muslim, someone that is in college, that has a friend that's a convert. Wallahi, please, I'm asking you by Allah to just call and ask, how are you doing? I'm just checking on you. One of the interviews that I had with one of the brothers, he lives here in Dallas. His mother nor father is in Dallas. He has a career. He's not married. And he said, wallahi, I was down one day, and one brother called me and asked, how you doing? Just checking up on you. Don't do that to me and not call. He said, man, that made my whole day. It made his whole day. So definitely, if you have the opportunity to reach out, if you're a convert yourself, and mashallah, you're praying and you're really consistent and you have certainty in religion, mashallah, tabarakallah, you're trying your level best to be in a good environment, and you have been, mashallah, please take a day on your schedule, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., and just call up some convert brothers or sisters that even community members. You know, call us imam. Sometimes we're alone too. You people think that mashallah, we need a call too and just say, how you doing? Don't do that to me. You know, we're human beings. Wallahi, we're human beings. So that's one aspect. Also with education, I highly advise any convert out there that has not learned how to read this beautiful book of Allah, please, please, please take it serious and try to memorize the letters and read the Quran, inshallah. If you go to knewu.org, we have a YouTube channel, and I did a whole presentation on each slide on how to read the Quran, inshallah. You can go there and learn how to read the Quran. It is not that difficult. It's only 3 vowels. Sometimes you elongate them, sometimes you pause them. That's all it is. You learn those letters, and inshallah, and make a goal by the end of Ramadan. I want to recite Fatiha with memorization, inshallah. I think those are the two most, the social and the educational aspect.
Considering they're both important, should concentration during Ramadan be on memorization or tadabbur or contemplation?
In Ramadan, should contemplation and memorization? Definitely contemplation. Definitely contemplation. That is the initial goal, is to ponder over the Quran al-Kareem. There's so many athar from the Salaf that mention the importance of the contemplation, and as I mentioned, how they would repeat the verses over and over and over again, of the meaning. The goal of the Quran is to learn the meaning of it in order to act upon it correctly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Alladhina yatlunhu haqqa tilawati," the ones that recite the Quran in the way that it should be recited. Some of the mufassirun say haqqa tilawati yani al-amal bihi, the ones that act upon the muqtada al-ayat, the implications of the verses. So without a doubt, ponderance over memorization. Allah knows best.
Jazakallah kullu khair. And also, I remember now that there is a series in the oven for our community here. For those that are following, please do subscribe to our channels. It'll be released, the trailer for it will be released in the coming days, reflecting on an ayah a night or a passage a night to help develop within us the skill of independent reflection. So QuranReflect.com definitely, but also we will have a video series inshallah this Ramadan to help, I guess, walk us through that or get us started on the walk. Inshallah, we'll all develop our own individualistic gems that speak to us in a unique way. So one brother, I know who asked this question. This is Osman Shah's question for sure. He's our retired football player. How do you plan on maintaining your workout routine during Ramadan? And if you can add to that, by the way, just to widen the sphere, because we're not all fullbacks, how just general health advice. I know you like speaking to this. How do we stay hydrated? Some of us are having their first Ramadan. How to pace ourselves? Just general health advice if you're training, weight training or not, or just training on fasting for the first time in your life.
Yeah, I mean, there's different body types. If people don't have a general background in working out or things of that nature, I'll just start from a generic nutrition aspect. When I've talked to I'm not a nutritionist, but I talked to a number of them, mashallah. Again, with hydration, you want to try to get for your iftar, try to have some good fiber, sugar, and water. You want that. So I would say 2 to 3 glasses of 8 ounces of water, some fruit, primarily watermelon, some bananas for some good sugar and potassium. And as far as carbohydrates, good carbohydrates, which would have some good fiber, oatmeal. Oatmeal is phenomenal. Dates are phenomenal. This date has been named the superfood because it has the sugar, the good sugar. It has the fiber, has the potassium. So dates are phenomenal. The Mejdul dates are phenomenal there. So if you have breakfast, oatmeal, or some cream of wheat, not cereal, try to keep away from sugar. Processed foods is only going to make you hungry and cause inflammation. So your food won't absorb, your intestines won't absorb it adequately. So try to have, and no juice. Try to stay away from juice. Juice is nothing but sugar.
Somebody end this live stream quick.
Juice is like one of the worst.
MashaAllah.
Like juice, Minute Maid, Hour Maid, Powerade.
No, I don't drink juice for the most part. Just orange juice sometimes. Killer. So if you get orange juice, my kids know me. If any juice comes to my house, I'm pouring half and then I'm filling it with water. If I can see you through the glass, we're good. MashaAllah.
Right? But that's what I advise. I advise some carbs, and I asked a famous basketball player who a famous basketball player who fasted in the playoffs. Okay, everybody probably knows who he is now. If you just
Alrighty,
Google
right?
him, who he is, mashallah, know him very well, mashallah. I asked him. I said, what was your breakfast in Ramadan when you got MVP in the playoffs fasting? Guess what he said? Dates, oatmeal, and fruit. So you need fruit for your water and your sugar, and oatmeal for your carbs to keep you full in fiber, and then dates for all of it together, and glasses of water, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. I think it's very, very valuable, actionable advice. Ahsanallahu ilaykum. I believe that is all, and we have a 45-minute break for those that need to, inshallah, pray their asr. Actually, yes, 45-minute break for those that need to pray their asr, and of course those that we want to give people ample time to visit our donation link as well, to help the masjid, of course, mitigate its expenses and its deficit that all masajid are being pressed with in this difficult situation. Jazakallah khairan. May Allah repay you for this in ways that only He can, Shaykh Abdullah, and gather us and you upon the best of terms, and gather us safely under His shade on the day of judgment and around the rivers of Jannah together with our beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jazakallah khairan. Always a pleasure to have you. Jazakallah khair, everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Jazakallah khairan everyone for being with us, those that are continuing to follow along and those that will inshallah be watching this thereafter. My beloved, not just because Sudan is the neighbor of Egypt, but because Queens is the neighbor of Brooklyn. Truly a big brother and someone I look up to and consult a lot in the da'wah and pray for all the time. Our good brother Sheikh Ammar Shukri, who is no unfamiliar face to this community, is with us, inshallah, to speak about a hadith that had a very close to home impact and a great potential in his life on focusing, praying, and persevering will be the topic. But Sheikh Ammar, for those that are being introduced to him for the first time, is a dual bachelor's in Islamic studies and marketing, and he's the author of the poetry collection titled What the Pen Wrote. And he currently serves as the Imam and resident scholar of the River Oaks Islamic Center in Houston, Texas. And he is the content director for Faith Essentials and Faith IQ, which are Al Maghrib Institute projects. And so again, he'll be presenting on focusing, praying, and persevering. Sheikh Ammar, I'll hand off to you for this session, and we'll be capturing questions from all the different platforms we're streaming to, and I'll read them off to you, inshallah, after your presentation. 20 to 30 minutes at your comfort level, inshallah. Barakallahu lak, akhi.
الله يبارك فيك. جزاك الله خير شيخ محمد. الحمد لله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. It's one of my yearly highlights is to be able to come and visit you all in Allentown. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not will for that to happen in that manifestation. But I was actually thinking to myself, and I was talking to a brother this morning about this, is that, you know, it's this pandemic is normally compared to the SARS epidemic that happened in 2005. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful that even if this pandemic had happened just 15 years ago, is the sound staticky? Here we go. Bismillah. Hopefully this is better now. So I was just speaking to a brother earlier this morning, and I was telling him that, you know, it's amazing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful. Even if this had happened just 15 years ago, it would have been a completely different experience for us. This technology that has really allowed for us, even as we're in confinement and even as we're in quarantine, that it has allowed for us to stay together. And for those who are extroverts and who are, you know, experiencing this with more difficulty than introverts, but it gives all of us the ability to at least be able to interact, and to be able to see each other's faces and to communicate with one another. Okay, so Bismillah. The Prophet ﷺ, the hadith that I had wanted to go over with you all is the wonderful hadith that's reported by Muslim, in which the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk," focus on what benefits you, and wasta'in billah wa la ta'jaz, and seek the help of Allah and do not give up. It's three things. It's three things that I'll present on, inshallah ta'ala, really briefly. But this hadith, honestly, I feel like it is keys to success in every endeavor. It's these three things. Number one is to focus on what benefits you. The first step to attaining any goal is to hone in on the goal, to qualify the goal in the first place. What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to do? And so the Prophet ﷺ is saying, have hirs, have commitment towards what benefits, that which is beneficial. Ibn al-Qayyim, in his book, Ad-Da'u Ad-Dawa, The Illness and the Cure, he talks about how a person's fantasy, a person's thoughts should revolve around four things, four categories. Number one, something that benefits you in the dunya. Your job, your career, your work, your family, relationships. Number two, something that will benefit you in the hereafter. How do I create for myself sadaqatun jariyah? How do I create for myself ilmun yuntafa'u bihi? How do I facilitate for myself having a righteous child that will pray for me, whether it is a righteous child from my own loins or whether it is a child who I have invested in, a person that I have invested in who will pray for me after my demise. How do I position myself to be in Jannat al-Firdaus with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How do I traverse over a sirat? How do I enter and protect myself from the hellfire? How do I do these things? So number two is how to get benefit and secure benefit for yourself in the hereafter. Number three is how to repel harm from yourself in the dunya. How do I protect myself from the loss of wealth or the loss of health or the loss of faith? How do I protect myself in the dunya? How do I protect myself from financial insecurity? How do I protect myself from any sort of disease, debilitating disease? And then number four, Ibn al-Qayyim says, how to protect yourself from harm in the hereafter. How do I protect myself from being of the people who are muflis on the Day of Judgment, like the Prophet ﷺ said? How do I protect myself from being, let me try if the switch headphones, 1 second, please. Bismillah. I'm connected, so Bismillah.
Hopefully, this is clear. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, so Ibn al-Qayyim, he said, these are the four things that you should be concerned about. Number one is how do you gain benefit for yourself in the dunya? How do you gain benefit for yourself in the hereafter? That's number two. How do you protect yourself from harm in the dunya? And how do you protect yourself from harm in the hereafter? Your thoughts should revolve around these four things, and that's enough to preoccupy a person for the rest of their life. And so you can imagine what Ibn al-Qayyim would say about, just entertainment and the way that we spend our time. And that's probably why he ended up being one of the most prolific scholars that we have. But in any case, a person focusing on what benefit. Now, the secret of this hadith, something that's really amazing, and is something that we should really ponder over and practice until we're able to actually manifest it, is a single letter, and that is the letter kaf. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk." That kaf, where he says, focus on what benefits you. What benefits me may be completely different than what benefits Sheikh Muhammad al-Shinawi. It could be completely different than what benefits Sheikh Abdullah Doro. It could be completely different than what benefits Sheikh Walid Basyuni. Right now, people are, as we're approaching Ramadan, every year we get that debate. And that debate is, what should people do? Should I read the Quran from cover to cover? Should I read the Quran with understanding? The answer to that is, focus on what benefits you. Ibn Abbas was asked about Qiyamul Layl. What should a person do? Should they pray longer qiyam, or should they make longer sujood, or what should you do? And so Ibn Abbas, he says, everybody is their own murtad. Everyone is their own person taking their sheep out to pasture, meaning you know what is better for yourself. It may be that what is better for myself is to read the Quran with understanding. Like that's where I find the presence of my spirituality. That is where I find my iman raising. And it may be that I find incredible joy in just reciting through the book. it may be that I find incredible spirituality in praying long qiyam on one night. And in one night, it may be that in sujood, my heart is just pouring out with du'as and supplications to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Focus on what benefits you. And the ulama, they talk about even with regards to occupation, and they say, what is, and this was mentioned by Shaykh Sa'di, his commentary on this hadith, and he said that the ulama talk about what's better. Is it better for, even with regards to careers? So is it better for you to be a farmer, or is it better for you to be a merchant, a business person? Is it better for you to be a carpenter, someone who works with their own hands? And so those who said farmers, it is a more beneficial or a better position or better profession, is they said because the farmer's heart is always attached to Allah. At the end of the day, and that's why it's very difficult for atheism to creep into rural societies and societies that deal with agriculture and farming, because you can do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, if that rain does not fall from the sky, and you have no control over the rain. And so every society will have some sort of rare rain prayer or rain dance or something where they are invoking the rain to come down, or they are invoking the Lord of that rain to come down, because they realize that it is out of their control. And so some said that the farmer, because their heart is attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Others, they said it is the business person, because look at all of the benefit that commerce brings. Everything that you have right now, as you are listening to this, everything that you are using, what you're holding, what is in front of you, what you're wearing, all of that is because of commerce. Number 3, those who said the carpenter or the person who makes things with their own hands, they said that the best payment that a person takes is for what they have made with their own hands, or what they have done with their own hands. In any case, As-Sa'di then, he says, rahimahullah, he says, and the criterion, what judges between all of these, is this hadith. This hadith is a criterion. It is a judgment over all of this. And that is, in reality, the best position, the best career is what's best for you, what benefits you. And for some people, it will be, and it's important that you really be honest with yourself, because you may want to do something that even your friends aren't interested in, even the people around you, or they might not even believe in your vision for yourself. And one of the great examples of this is Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas is the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he passes away. Ibn Abbas is he's 11 or 12 or 13 years old, but he's in that age. He's a very young man. And Ibn Abbas has this incredible wisdom at that time. And the Prophet ﷺ had prayed for him to have understanding of the book and to be taught the interpretation, to be given understanding of the religion and to be taught interpretation of the book. And so Ibn Abbas, with this incredible foresight, at that young age, when the Prophet ﷺ passes away, Ibn Abbas realizes an incredible loss of opportunity. But there is still some opportunity present. And he tells one of his friends from the Ansar, and he says, so this young man, also one of his friends, and he says to him, why don't we go and learn from the elder companions before they passed away as well? The Prophet ﷺ passed away. Well, all of these other companions are in his age range too. So you have Abu Bakr, who's 2 years younger than Rasulullah ﷺ. And you have so many other companions who are in that age range. And so he's saying, why don't we go and benefit from their knowledge? And so his friend says to him, his friend in that moment, Ibn Abbas has an idea, he's got a goal. His friend says to him, Ibn Abbas, do you think anybody's going to care what you know? You trying to be a scholar? Ibn Abbas, do you think anybody cares what you know? When there are so many senior companions, all of these big names are here. Ibn Abbas, he then made a decision. He said, فَتَرَكْتُهُ. So I left him alone. I stopped hanging out with him, stopped spending time with him. I went on this journey on my own. And Ibn Abbas, his story is famous for, he would go and knock on, he wouldn't even knock. He would stand at the door of the companions and he would wait and he would let the sun beat down on him and he would cover himself from that sand that would be blown in, carried by the wind of Medina. And he would just wait for a companion to just come out naturally. And then he would ask him about an incident, or he would ask him about a verse, and he would ask him about, and he's the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he did this for weeks and months and years, until when those senior companions did pass away, and the ummah then looked towards who's next up, who are the people who have inherited knowledge from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and who is ready already to lead this ummah. And Ibn Abbas was ready. And they found the young Sahaba, that generation of the young Sahaba, Aisha radiallahu anha and Abdullah ibn Umar, and those like them. They were the ones who became the teachers of the ummah. But the point here is that Ibn Abbas had a vision, he had a goal, he went out and he achieved it. And even though he might have had a detractor or two, that did not stop him. Focus on what benefits you. Focus on what benefits you. And there's a lot of literature that you'll be able to find on the topic of focus, right? All of these self-help books, they will talk about goal setting, and they will talk about having a vision board for yourself, and they'll talk about, you know, focus and the power of mindfulness and all of that deep work. All of these things, you'll find that. Cool? But what you won't find is the next part of this hadith, which is wasta'in billah, and seek the help of Allah. You won't find that in any of those books. One of the most beautiful things that we have in this religion of ours is the understanding that I am powerless, but I have the ability to call upon a God who is powerful. You know, subhanAllah, sometimes I think, like, you have people who are going all over the world, traveling, trying to find wisdom. And even when they find wisdom after 20 years of study, it is still imperfect. And yet we are finding these wisdoms given to us on a platter. It's called the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So for example, these books will talk about the importance of every morning getting up and having a daily mantra, a daily affirmation. And so you are saying, you look in the mirror, or you speak out to the universe, or whatever they like to say, and they say, I am powerful, and I am amazing, and I am deserving, and I am. But we don't do that. We get up in the morning and we don't say, I am powerful. I say, oh Allah, you are powerful. And I don't say that I am deserving. I say, oh Allah, you are deserving of praise. And I say, oh Allah, you give me victory, and you give me support, and you give me blessings, and you give me light, and you give me guidance. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for strength from his strength. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala power from his power. And so these adhkar that we make, Ibn Taymiyyah, who is Ibn al-Qayyim's sheikh, Ibn al-Qayyim talks about one morning, he went to see the sheikh, his sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah, also one of the greatest scholars in the history of Islam, one of the most prolific scholars in the history of Islam. And he found that the sheikh was sitting after Fajr doing his morning azkar. And he's just waiting. He's off to the side, doesn't want to interrupt him, and he's just waiting. And Ibn Taymiyyah is sitting and he's doing these morning remembrances until he said the sun almost reached midday. Ibn al-Qayyim is saying, I'm waiting on my sheikh, and the sun almost reached midday. And then Ibn Taymiyyah said to him, when he noticed his presence, and when he was finished, and he noticed his presence, he said, how long were you here? And he said, I've been here since Fajr. And Ibn Taymiyyah said to him, this is my morning meal. These azkar, he said, this is my morning meal. If I do not take it, I will not have strength for the rest of the day. And you would think that that is counterproductive, that you spend and again, our goal isn't to spend the next morning tomorrow, wake up tomorrow and try to do dhikr until 11 a.m. We're not going to be able to do that. But to understand that these azkar that we make are anchoring, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you tawfiq and gives you access, that 1 hour that you spent invoking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you access might give you 5 hours of productivity that are more productive than an entire week of you banging your head against your keyboard and checking Facebook and coming back. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives you success. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, seek assistance from Allah. Seek assistance from Allah. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and my success is not except by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except by Allah. And this is one of the meanings that we understand from this beautiful, beautiful dhikr that we are taught to make, and that is La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This phrase is so powerful. The Prophet ﷺ called it a treasure from the treasures of paradise. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There is no source of power or transformation except by Allah. You are saying, when you say this dhikr, you are saying, oh Allah, I have no power except for you. I can't transform. I can't do anything. I can't become better. I can't do anything without you. I can't come to any success or to any. That's why after the muezzin, what do they say? When the muezzin says, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala falah, come to the prayer, come to success, what do we say? La hawla wa la quwwata. I can't come to any prayer. I can't come to any success. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give me the power and the ability to come to that prayer, I'm not coming to the prayer. And if Allah does not give me the power to come to success, I cannot come to any success. And so the Prophet ﷺ tells us, he says, وَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. Seek the help of Allah. I just want to give a quick shout out. There's a wonderful, wonderful, amazing humanitarian who passed away recently, Dr. Abdurrahman al-Sumais, rahimahullah ta'ala. Dr. Abdurrahman is one of, this man, he's described as a rajul bi ummah, a man who is equal to an ummah. His output, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the tawfiq to do. Really quickly, his biography you can find, but he was a man from Kuwait who was trained in medicine in Canada and then spent the rest of his life. He would have lived a very comfortable life if he had moved back to Kuwait and simply practiced medicine there. But he moved actually to work in Africa, and he did humanitarian work, and he founded schools, and he founded over a lifetime, founded many schools, and and dug thousands of wells and built hospitals and clinics and universities. He did all of that and gave da'wah, and the amount of people who accepted Islam at his hands in sub-Saharan Africa were millions. Millions. You're talking about 3 or 4 million people. This man, unbelievable. And he went away from the cameras, and he went away from the lights, and there was no reason for him to be well known. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed it, and this man's story became known, and he passed away recently, a couple of years ago, rahimahullah ta'ala. But his interviews are incredibly inspiring. And one of the things that I remember he mentioned in an interview once is he said, I never used to ask Allah for a lighter load. I never used to ask him for a lighter load. I always used to ask him for a stronger back. I can do more. I can take care of more than 5 people. I can lead more than just my family. I can bring benefits to more than just 20 people or 30 people. I can do more. And so he would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen his back, seeking assistance from Allah, a key to success, a major key. Anytime you want anything in this world, the Prophet ﷺ told Ibn Abbas, he says, إِذَا سَأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلِ اللَّهِ وَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. If you seek help from anyone, seek the help of Allah. And if you were to ask anyone, ask Allah. Always make that your first step if you want something or if you don't want something. Now, the last part of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, وَلَا تَعْجَزْ. And don't give up. Don't stop. And this is the third major ingredient for success in any endeavor, is to simply commit and show up every single day until you accomplish it. There is a book written by a professor of psychology from the University of Pennsylvania. Her name is Angela Duckworth, and her story of her book was that she was I think a high school teacher in Manhattan, and she would notice at the beginning of the semester or the beginning of the school year why some of the kids who were just incredibly intelligent, who she expected to do really well in class, in her classes, by the end of the semester, they wouldn't be the ones who would perform the highest. And so that really sparked her curiosity. If intelligence isn't what can predict outcome or successful outcome, then what is it? And she did a lot of research at West Point Military Academy as well. And they were very interested in her research because they want to be able to, as best as they can, pre-qualify what students would be good cadets. What are the qualities that would make a good soldier? If it's not IQ, then what are we testing for, and what should we be testing for? And so beyond that, she did a lot of research, but she concludes that whether it's in the academic arena or in any other arena, if there's one quality that predicts success, she named her book it, and it is grit. Grit. Gritting your teeth and just pushing through it. You've got a goal, no matter what that goal is, you know what? There will be days when it's unenjoyable. There will be days where you are uninterested. There are days where you don't feel like it. But the people who have this quality of grit, so and before her, by many, many, many years, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he says that no one has ever acquired anything noble, no prophet or anyone less than them, except through sabr. And sabr is not just patience, but sabr is all of these meanings: perseverance, endurance, outlasting the discomfort, outlasting the desire to be lazy, to fatigue. The Prophet ﷺ says, وَلَا تَعْجَزْ, and don't give up. And we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Allah says, and seek help in sabr, endurance. This notion of not having ajz, not giving up. And as-salah. And as-salah is wasta'in billah. It is seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is you turning to Allah. And so these ingredients we see being reflected a lot in the Quran and of course in the world around us. The Prophet or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu wattaqu Allah la'allakum tuflihun. O you who believe, endure, persevere, have patience, wasabiru, and now compete in this, warabitu, and hold fast, and have taqwa of Allah. Taqwa of Allah is part of turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in doing so, you will be successful. In doing so, you will be successful. And so I'll conclude here, but I just want to remind you of the 3 keys. Number 1, it is to focus, figure out what it is that you want, whatever your goal is. Number 2, seek help of Allah. Make that your constant invocation. Make that your hujjay, as Ibn Taymiyyah says, وَلْيَكُنْ hujjayrah. Let their constant thing that they come back to. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. But in any case, invoking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making a lot of dua for whatever it is that you want. And number 3 is, once you've figured it out, you set it out, you are invoking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling upon Allah for success. Number 3 is don't give up. Continue, persist, persevere until inshallah ta'ala you accomplish that goal. Jazakumullah khair wa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam kathira.
Jazakallahu kulla khair, akhi. May Allah Azza wa Jal write for you the reward and the impact that you're hoping for, and above and beyond that, inshallah Azza wa Jal. There are some questions that I'm going to jump right into. The first of them are, what are some practical tips to help us remain focused while praying?
To help you remain focused while praying, so I like to always give the example of when you're driving home. So when you're driving home and you've been on a route that you are very familiar with all the time, you're driving home from the masjid, you're driving home from your school or from work, and you know these streets like the back of your hand. You're talking on the phone with somebody, right? And then let's say your exit is blocked, and then the exit after it is blocked, and then the exit after it is blocked. So when you finally take your exit, you are in a neighborhood that you don't know at all. What do you say to that person on the phone? You say, let me call you back. let me call you back. Why? Because I'm in unfamiliar territory, and so now I have to actually focus on where I am. And so for Salah, a lot of times we are just in very familiar territory. We're reciting the same surahs as always. We're reciting the same azkar, the same du'as, the same. And so simply put yourself in unfamiliar territory. Dust off some of those surahs that you know, but you're not really sure that you know, you're not very comfortable with. There are so many azkar that you can make in all of the stations of salah. So change, add variety to your salah, and inshallah ta'ala, that will give you immediate focus.
Jazakallah khairan. If I may reference people also, there's a good free book online by Sheikh al-Munajjid, Fakkallahu Asrahu, 33 Ways to Develop Khushu' in Salah. I've personally found benefit in it. And if there are any other references, you can call people to maybe the series by Sheikh Farhan Ammar, the title.
Yeah, so there's Sweetness of Salah. There is a series called Sweetness of Salah by Dr. Farhan Abdul Aziz. And that's understanding what you're saying in the salah and understanding some of the spiritual dimensions of each. And that will also help you focus.
There is also another question. One of the youth here in the community is saying, how do I get kick-started? Like there's lots of days, especially since I've been forced back into my house from college dorm since Corona has started. He said to me, I don't even want to get up out of bed some mornings because I feel like I'm so lethargic, so, I guess sullen. What advice can you get us to climb out of that rut, just to get us started en route to focusing on what is beneficial and considering that goals can possibly be worked towards?
So a couple of things. Number one is, again, to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, that's always step number one. And the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in two things. Min al-ajzi wal-kasal. Number one is ajz. Ajz is inability. Ajz is when I want to do things, but I'm not able to do something. And kasal is laziness. Like, I have the ability to do a lot of things, but it is an inability that's due to motivation, to lack of interest, apathy. And so asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection from these things, invoking him from that. And number two, I would say have some accountability. Sometimes for some of us, it's a matter of just creating or speaking to somebody who, we respect and who can give us a nice little, kick when we need to. Hopefully we all have that friend who, if we share these types of things with, goals with, they will be on top of us and they will, remind us and they will challenge us and they will push us. And so I would say reaching out to your circles as well. Sometimes so there's two types of people. There are people who, when they are internally motivated, and so when they really want to do something, they have no problem just doing it on their own and just being completely private about it and getting it done. And then they share it with other people. And then we have other people who kind of need to share it with people from before and have them push us along the way and support us along the way. So if you're type 2, then I would say share your goals with some other individuals, or maybe even just have a conversation and brainstorm some goals with other people and see what you guys can do together.
Okay. Would you recommend energy crystals?
I don't even know what those are. What are those?
I hear about them floating. I'm trying to sound in tune with popular pulse out there.
I don't know. Well, I don't know what an energy crystal is. No idea. Does it give you energy? Is that the thing? What's this laughter in the background?
That's our our tech backup guy. Apparently he knows or is wondering why hip shuyukh like us don't know. Are there any questions left? Let me run through our list. I have my script. Sure. And one just came in. Some people Allah has given light on their face and a nice way to convey messages. Allah bless you, Sheikh Ammar. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Ammar.
That's just the there's a light in front of my face, literally. So Don't be
synthetic only. No, tabarak. May Allah make you above our expectations, better than what we assume. Protect you from every evil eye, akhi. How does one get good at poetry?
You know, that brings up a good question, which is, was a person a poet before they wrote poetry, and that's why they wrote? Or did a person become a poet after they wrote poetry? You know what I mean? Like, before I wrote anything, was I a poet at 7 years old or 10 years old? Was I still a poet? Did I still have that attribute? Or did it become developed afterwards? In any case, Usman, how do you get good at it? But like anything else, you just got to practice. Everybody who talks about writing talks about the importance of writing every single day, just until you get good at it. So you have to go through, and you know, with the creative arts, not everything that you do is going to be amazing. And so you write and write and write until two things happen. Number one is that you get good at the craft, and number two, you'll have some pieces that will just be incredible, inshallah. But not all of them are going to be like that, and that's why you have to keep writing and keep writing and keep writing. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think I see some. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Bismillah. Where can the audience find you? And would you mind closing us out with a poem of your choice?
Where can the audience find me? I am on Facebook and Instagram. Those are my two social media pages. So the Instagram is Ammar, AMMAR _ Al-Shukri, ALSHUKRY. And Facebook is Ammar Shukri 11. No, that's just it, yeah. So as far as the poem goes, so we're very close to the month of Ramadan. And so I'll just share a poem about fasting. And it goes, "O you who believe, fasting was prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you to shield yourselves from Allah's wrath. A high and lofty goal in which fasting was made a path and obligation, rather a mighty pillar of the faith to abstain from anything that would cause the fast to break, with the intention of worship from the time of the sun's rise until it sets on the horizon for its daily demise. With the intention of worship from before the sun's rise until it sets on its horizon for its daily demise. And fasting has two pillars in which agreement was acquired. The first is to refrain from two physical desires, desire for food and drink and those of a sexual type. And the second is that intention must be done in the night. True dawn to sunset is the normal time frame observed, but in extreme circumstances, the nearest normal neighbor is preferred, and it is a most virtuous act of worship, if you only knew, to release yourself from your desires and become a better you, because the blessings of fasting are too great to be counted, and its reward with Allah is too great to be amounted. But in this short introduction, let it suffice to say that it increases us in taqwa, which we witness every day during the blessedness of this month, a safeguard of evil. A safeguard from evil, protection from shayateen, those of the jinn and people, and it's an act only done for Allah. So He's the only one who rewards it, and its gate is a rayyan, only those who fast go towards it. The breath of those who fast is more beloved to Allah than the scent of musk, and then ummah united daily in worship from dawn till dusk. Gone is gluttony and greed, replaced with compassion for those in need, and a healthy body, and a healthy rest given to bodies that all year we overfeed. So indeed, one could go on and on. 11 months is too long, but welcome to Ramadan.
Jazakallah khairan. Jazakallah khairan.
Iyaakum.
If only you could see my fingers right now.
Finger snapping?
That's Ammar's preferred alternative.
That's right.
May Allah use your words as He used the words of Hassan ibn Thabit radiallahu anh, stirring in people passion about Allah and His Messenger and an interest for the sacred sciences. Allahumma ameen ya Rabb. Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh Ammar.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to see you, man. You make my day. Assalamu alaikum. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Shadu la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. We'll be on a new link. Make sure you subscribe to our Facebook page to get the link for our next and final session with Sheikh Muhammad Faqih and Sheikh Walid Basyouni for the final two. programs and presentations of the night. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.